Beautiful Anonymous changes each week. It defies genres and expectations. For example, our most recent episode, I talked to a woman who survived a murder attempt by her own son. But just the week before that, we just talked the whole time about Star Trek. We've had other recent episodes about sexting in languages that are not your first language, or what it's like to get weight loss surgery. It's unpredictable, it's real, it's honest, it's raw. Get Beautiful Anonymous wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Behind a Human. I'm your host, Mark Champagne, and it's my job to unpack the mental fitness practices and stories of people living at the top of their game, personally and professionally. Today, we've got a really awesome human being. We've got Adam on the show. He's a dynamic founder and CEO of FivePointFive, a wellness tech startup making waves with its science-backed, music-powered Breathwork app. Launched in 2022, FivePointFive uses real-time biometrics to personalize breathwork sessions that helps people sleep better, stress less, and feel their best. Before FivePointFive, Adam co-founded several successful tech companies, including Influencer and Captify, earning recognition like EY Entrepreneur of the Year, Scale Up Entrepreneur of the Year, and a ton of other awards, actually. And he's passionate about innovation, well-being. He's a great human, and he's all about building tech and solutions to help people thrive. Adam, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction. I should clarify, Influence.
Yeah.
I wasn't co-founder of, by the way.
Okay.
I was chairman for 5 years, from kind of an early stage, but no, I wasn't co-founder. It was Captify, which was
Got you.
The co-founding part.
Perfect. Thanks for the clarification. It's close enough, but
Yeah.
involved. But yeah.
I could roll with it and taking it, but it would.
Sure. I'm going to clip it and send it over to the co-founders, right? That's exactly the one time that would happen. It would be this time. So yeah, I appreciate it. Okay, before we have so many things to talk about. There's so many angles and topics that I think will be really valuable for those listening. But before we do any of that, I've got to start the show in the same way I do for all guests, and that's essentially stripping away the bios and really just getting to who are you?
Powerful first question. So I guess kind of just going back to like my childhood. So I grew up in a house with my mom and my sister. My parents were divorced. From a very young age, I found ways of, I guess, testing my entrepreneurship. And from every week, I was kind of out, be that washing cars, taking dogs for walks, DJing, wherever it was, in order to try and kind of, I guess, get some kind of like income from all these tasks that I was doing. And I became very motivated to just spend my weekends just going out and, trying to kind of raise a bit of money. And that was kind of my childhood. So I guess I was very much in a family that seemed to be relatively entrepreneurship. My parents had their own businesses. My grandparents had their own businesses. So for me, I never saw that entrepreneurship and having my business was a barrier at all. So decided to, I went to obviously school and off the back of that university. And whilst I was at university, I realized that maybe university wasn't quite for me. I think where we've hammered into society that university is the logical next step, but actually I found that there was an opportunity for me to maybe explore this entrepreneurship side. And I lasted, I want to say like 4 months at university.
Okay.
Come back age 19. I obviously needed to get some kind of foundation in businesses. So I started off working as a realtor, an estate agent in the UK. And off the back of that, I went into recruitment. And then off the back of recruitment, I went to the city broking. And after I was broking for a short stint, I realized that I wasn't in control of my own destiny. And I really wanted to start, testing out this kind of entrepreneurship side and see if I can make that work. So I came across a marketing course. And whilst I was working, I kind of would go back home and just study till early hours of the morning, and then work again and go home, do the same thing over and over and over. And after the first 3 months, I'd made a very small profit, like a $50 to $100 profit. And I realized that actually I'd proven this concept of marketing where I can work on my own projects from home that allowed me to get into the world of marketing and start to learn that world, but obviously earn an income off the back of it as well. So I decided to quit my job off the back of earning that $50 or so. And my parents, I was absolutely.
You're like, I see the path here in the 50. That's funny. I love it.
And I think for me, like I was always, when I was doing the sales roles, I was good at it. So I knew that I had that
Yeah.
comfort of I can just fall back to that role after if it didn't work out. So for me,
Mm.
I kind of started to throw all my time and energy into my first business, which was an affiliate marketing business. I set up a computer in my mum's hallway and just worked there day and night, months on end. Didn't really have much weekends. Very little sleep.
Was it just you?
It was just me, yeah.
Okay.
But after the course of around 6 months, I was spending thousands of dollars a day, making thousands of dollars a day profit, and realized this was a huge opportunity to start to take the business away from just me sitting at a laptop in my mum's hallway and, create a business that could essentially scale. And that was kind of the start of how my technologies came about.
Wow. I have to ask, I want to go back to what you mentioned about university and just ask, how did you know university wasn't for you?
I think that I was very eager to go out into the real world. And
Okay.
I think, I was surrounded by like people partying and I was partying and, I wasn't enjoying what I was doing, the course that I was doing. I also wasn't enjoying, I was waking up 3, 4 in the afternoon. It was winter term and I'd wake up, it would be dark outside, and it was really unmotivating when I realized, what am I doing here? Like, why am I doing this? Just because this is the thing that everyone thinks you should be doing. And
Yeah.
my sister, who's a couple of years older, she's very academic and, she went on that path. That was right for her, but for me, I knew that I could get to where I wanted to be without needing to go down that path. And by the time, my friends were all leaving university, I was running a business, had hundreds of people, and, they were struggling to, find a job. So, for me, again, university is great for a lot of people, but for me personally, it didn't match kind of A, what I needed and B, what I wanted.
Yeah.
So that became quite obvious to me after the first term. And even before then, it was quite obvious to me, but I just felt, you feel like you should go along with society, right? You got
Yeah.
into
Yeah. Of course.
you just should do it. But in reality, I should have not gone in the first place.
Yeah. Well, so I asked this just because, and I agree with you. I mean, I think it's there still are purpose or purposes for, college and university and so forth. I do think, and I imagine you would agree with this, that the way it's being delivered is so archaic at this point that
Mm.
I feel like at one point, I mean, it's just not going to work even across the board. But there's so many people, and I mean, I went to business school and so forth, and if I think about what I use from that today, I mean, other than just the ability to work with groups of people and, like, ask good questions and work on case studies, everything else, like,
Yeah.
the marketing textbook was probably out of even back then was out of date by the end of the semester or something. So, I just asked that because there's probably a lot of people listening that are wondering, like, something feels off, but it's like, what do you do? Because we're in this weird transition point where it still very much is, like the path. Um, Even though we're all talking about like, oh, maybe it's not for everyone, but it's like, well, what do you do? So in your case, you just essentially jumped into the workforce and started to get experience and kind of followed your intuition, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we're talking specifically about like entrepreneurship, and
Yeah,
entrepreneurship has become more and more accessible at a young age. And we spoke
yeah,
more about the rise of AI and the tools that gives individuals. You're taken away by this new AI technology, you're taking away the barrier of cost to try new products and build new things and raise money and funding. You can just build a ton of apps, test them all, and then whatever one works, you kind of invest into. So the time has changed so much from this kind of industrial manufacturing type style through to the rise of technology. And I came at a very good time where I guess digital marketing was still in its infancy. So
sure.
it was a great time for me, but now the time has moved on, and now that's the era of AI. So utilizing the
Yeah,
AI tools just gives you the ability to create a business when you're at school in your spare time, just to test. So, we're in a different world now, and I think that it's definitely less scary than it's ever been to create a business. There's more support there than there has ever been as well. And I think that, from a very young age, like you've got this understanding still what people want, what people need, and can make a call based off that. So it's not to say, that, to follow me and like jump ship and that's the right move to kind of stop it all and just go for it. But there is definitely kind of a balance where you can test a few things on the side, see what works, and decide whether or not you want to continue down that traditional journey or try that
Yeah.
new route. And I think when we talk about education as well, if you think about the curriculum that's set, beginning of the year and how different the world is in a year's time. So by the time you've won everything, it's all gone. It's dated, it becomes meaningless. So unless there is this flexible curriculum, which I'm a massive supporter for bringing into all schools and all education systems, it's gonna become more and more redundant what people are learning and studying, unfortunately.
Yeah. So how, I know you've got, and this is the last question on this topic and we'll move on, but just because it's so practical, I mean, and maybe selfish on my side as well, but I mean, a lot of people are listening have young families. So you've got 3 young kids, right?
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So like how, I mean, it might be a little bit early, obviously, on the education side, and the fact that we're just in really like foreign territory in the speed of how fast things are changing. So it's hard to predict. Like, you'd be like, hey, this is what I hope that they'll have, when they're in school. But I mean, it's going to change so fast. So I guess my question is, how do you think about like, how are you thinking about just equipping your I guess your kids as they get older with just the foundational tools that they'll need to be able to then, thrive in whatever the environment looks like. Have you given that any thought?
Yeah, I do quite a lot with them actually.
Okay.
But look, I think the first thing is awareness, right? So how can we teach our children awareness of all things we know now that we didn't know beforehand? And I think that's without awareness, it's very hard to kind of go any further. But for example, we're going to come on to breathwork in detail, but I do ensure that my children know that they need to close their mouth and not breathe through their mouth. They breathe through their nose. From a very young age, they need to do that. I do a grateful journaling with my 2 boys, my 4-year-old and my 6-year-old every night. So I get them to really think about, what to take out of the day that they are grateful for and thankful for. And there's, there's great diaries that you can use and journals that you can use, but essentially ask questions about, what do you love about yourself? What can you do tomorrow to make you proud of yourself? What did you do today that challenged yourself? And so you start to get them into this way of thinking from a really young age. And, they just develop this off the back of that, this kind of awareness, which is all we can do as kind of parents, right? We have to kind of equip them with whatever we can. And I think for me, kind of awareness from a mindfulness aspect and the tool, which, we'll talk about again in more detail, but breathwork as a tool is unparalleled and unmatched in any other wellness tool you can give them. So for me, giving them that tool and teaching them how to breathe functionally, how to kind of tap into their mind, their body, their sleep at any moment, whenever they need to, is, a powerful gift that I can give to them.
Oh yeah. I mean, we'll come back to it, but just to kind of put a pin on that right now. I mean, I think, and even for us, like if you think about when kids inevitably, have high emotions or big emotional swings and something throws them off as they're developing and so forth. I mean, just giving them that tool of, okay, let's just breathe together. As parents, I think we need that
Definitely.
as well in that moment, right? Because it's easy to get caught up in all of it. And it's just a lifelong tool that is, I think, a superpower. I mean, I'm biased, of course. I know you are as well, but I mean, maybe not, because literally breathing and breath work and all, it's literally been around since the beginning of time. So maybe we aren't biased. It's just, stating the inevitable that just a lot of people don't think about. So
Totally.
okay, we're going to come back to that. I do want to round it out though with just your story, just set some context into how you got into working on the Breathwork app, essentially. So you're all in on, on the digital agency side of things and marketing and advertising and so forth. Like what, I know at one point you had, hundreds of employees, if or quite a few at least. And then you got to this point where you were able to sell. What was that whole path like? And just give us a little bit of flavor, because I mean, again, like you took chances. Like people see like the news headlines, but I mean, they don't see all the backstory and the work and the effort and so forth. And what I'm really interested in is not necessarily on like exit numbers and so forth, which you can share, of course, just set context, but is more so like what were some of the questions or decisions that were or almost like unexpected, but led to some of these massive outcomes, positive outcomes for you?
Sure. I guess if I kind of start with my own journey. So
Yeah.
I founded Captify. I was
Yeah.
23. I was naive. I was egotistical. I was money motivated. Um, and you don't really know yourself, right? At that age,
Yeah.
you start to
Yeah.
start to learn about yourself. So for me, I was really kind of dedicated to just build like a massive company, have a massive exit. And as I'm kind of like working over like the 10-year period that we kind of, grew Captify, I'm finding that I'm getting less satisfaction from the work that I was doing and more satisfaction from the people that I was working with and influencing. And so that's kind of on one side of things. The other side of things is I'm working day and night continually, and I am just literally on the verge of burnout continually. Right. So every time
Okay.
I'm on holiday, like I would get ill because my body would stop and I'll get ill. So
Yeah.
I realized after years of doing this that I was doing damage. And it was actually a trip to, there was two things happening in parallel really. So there was a trip to cardiologist because I was getting like a really strong tightness in my chest. And
Ugh.
I thought to myself, this is probably the start of a heart attack coming. And I got wired up. They put me on a treadmill, done all the tests, and turns out there was obviously nothing wrong with my heart. And then in parallel to that, I started work with a life coach, and he introduced me to a whole host of tools, everything from meditation, journaling, and other things. Nothing really worked for me, and he introduced me to breathwork. And it was the first thing I'd done that I was like, wow, instant, changed my state. And during that process, I started to learn the basics about breathing, and I realized that how I was breathing, short, sharp, shallow upper chest, was creating this tense, stressful state, this fight or flight mode that we refer to, that I was living in day and night.
Yeah.
And that was obviously the cause of the tight chest and everything else. So when that all started to develop, I started to become interested in breath work. I found it totally unpractical. I found it, I couldn't dedicate 20, 40 minutes a day to do breath work. That
Yeah.
wasn't going to happen. Um, the breathwork that I experienced, it was a kind of a bit too like it was quite spiritual, and I wasn't
Yeah.
always in that frame of mind. And so when I kind of grew the business, exited the business, and we sold for north of 100 million, so it was a great exit. I realized I wanted to spend my time and energy that was essentially allowing me to create an impact in the world. And what I could do that create the biggest impact in the world would to tackle some of the biggest problems we face around poor health, anxiety, stress, sleep deprivation. And how can I create a tool that essentially allowed people to use it wherever they are, wherever they were doing at any time, and access kind of this tool to kind of help with those aspects in real time. And what was guaranteed from a science perspective to work? Breath work. So I went deep
Yeah.
into the world of breath work. I studied with Patrick McKeown, who's the #1 functional breath expert in the world, and covered the biomechanics, the biochemistry, the psychophysiological dimensions, the link between the mind and the body and the body and the mind, to understand why specifically functional breath work has the effect it does on us. Now, functional breath work, as you know, is very different to traditional breath work. Traditional breath
Yeah.
work is, long, maybe spiritual, traumatic release sessions. And functional breathwork is 60 to 90-second biohack to hack your mind, your body, or sleep to achieve a certain state, all scientifically backed and scientifically proven. So for me, that was the world that I studied. And I looked at elite professionals, be that sports professionals, executives. What were they doing to be top of their game? And it kept on coming back to the same thing. breathwork, functional breathwork. So I realized there was this opportunity to take this world of functional breathwork that has been used by elite professionals for years, bring that into an accessible tool that was fit for the masses. And that was how 5.5 was born.
So it sounds like you just naturally transitioned into that new idea and company as the exit or the sale was happening. Is that almost out of necessity, right? Or did you already have, like, were you already well into the process of setting up the company to sell, or did it just kind of all materialize around the same time?
Yeah, we basically, but a few years before we sold, we got approached and we had this offer and it fell through.
Okay.
And off the back of that, you kind of have the carrot dangled in front of you, and we,
Yeah.
okay, like, let's spend the next 2 years just kind of showing all the right numbers and then kind of go to the market and have a process. So when you go to sell a business, you typically take on like a corporate advisor. So we interviewed a whole
Sure.
bunch of different advisors, essentially who can get you the best match and the best value. So we decided to go with this kind of corporate advisor, and that whole process, by the time you decide, okay, you're going to sell and select that advisor through to actually selling, that was best part of a year process.
Okay.
Whereby you go out, you're pitching, then you kind of have like offer stage. And then after offer stage, you have due diligence. That due diligence can last months. If you do it quickly, 2-3 months, but more typically goes longer than that. And that,
Did you have the breath work at that time? Like, were you
no,
personally?
no.
No.
So that was just kind of that was on the Captify side. And at that time, like, the focus is Captify, right? Get me exit.
Yeah.
Spend my time doing what I want to do. Did I know I was going to make a breathwork app at that time? No, I didn't. But
Yeah.
I knew that I needed space to really think about what impact I wanted to make in the world. And I knew that, it had to be purposeful to me. Otherwise I just wouldn't have done it.
Sure.
And I kind of explored education quite heavily. And I explored, wellness and specifically breath work. And I realized that on one side, education, it was very hard for me to get like mass reach in a short period of time versus with
Yeah.
breath work. I realized there was kind of this, stage that was getting progressively worse at all age groups, and that for me allowed me to kind of create the impact that I want to create. But education is still, front of my mind because I know that,
Please.
again, if we can take breath work
Yeah.
and bring that into schools, then obviously we're giving like a whole generation a tool to I would say survive in the world that we find
Yeah.
ourselves in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is obviously something that we're always kind of focused on in the future as well,
Yeah.
how to do that.
I'd like to raise my hand and put my 2 kids on the list, on the beta list for your education program, just putting it out there. Um, I'm always interested in transitions because everyone, I mean, not everyone can relate obviously to, 100 million plus kind of exit, but I think many can relate to big life and professional transitions and so forth. So once you were done with the exit, like, just practically speaking, like, what did that look like for you and the family? Or, like, what kind of, I mean, I know you've shared, obviously, the passion behind breathwork and how 5.5 originated, but I'm curious, like, did you take some time? Did you just put your mind in a place of stillness and ask some really powerful questions? Like, what did that practically look like, that transition?
Yeah. So I guess the first part was, um, I wanted to create space. So I had like at least a year off. And I also got my life coach back to really help with that transition.
Mm,
Now I
okay.
was, I had, you know, healthy finances that allowed me to make the decisions I wanted to make. I'm not like materialistic at all. So I'm not into cars, I'm not into watches, nothing like that. So how could I essentially, transition into a new life? And in parallel to that, when people go through these types of events in their lives, a lot happens from like a family and friendship perspective as well. And people see you differently.
Yeah.
That you thought were happy for you aren't happy for you, and there's a lot of jealousy that creeps around, unfortunately, and it
Does
surfaces.
that surprise you?
It was with a couple of people. It did, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like my
Yeah, that's
friendship
tough.
group evolved um, based off like the people that I knew were happy for me versus the ones that were very obviously not happy for me. And, you know, it's hard because these people that were not happy for me, it's not then weren't happy for me. It was that they're not happy with their lives and where they're at, you know,
Yeah, of course.
how jealousy, you know, forms. Um,
Yeah.
and, you know,
Still stings though.
I don't take it personally. But you know, there was definitely these kind of elements that surfaced, which was disappointing, but I was kind of
Yeah.
warned it would happen. So, but I just wasn't expecting it from the people that, it came.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. So you took about a year to get really clear. I'm assuming this is when you did, the deep dive on all of Patrick's work and
Yes.
so forth. And
Reading book after,
um
after book. Like, I think
yeah, yeah.
this of a year, I must have gone through comfortably like 30, 30 to 40, 35 to 40 books, I would say.
Sure. Your kids are looking at me like, Dad's always doing these strange breath work. See, like, what is he doing with his mouth? No, it's just kidding. Uh, I mean, the last question, and we'll move right into. I want to give people a picture of how this app is different because I've been using it myself as well, and it's really good. Um, what kind of conversations in that period of your life, that during that year long, I guess, transition, were you having with your wife?
So we decided to spend some time in Los Angeles and really,
Yeah.
so we spent like almost a year out there just to, I guess, to have some time together as a family and create, you know, memories. We knew that, you know, it's very hard to do that, um, at any time, you know, with children and schools and everything else. Um, I'll come on to what happened after that, but yeah, that was kind of when we first went to LA.
Okay.
And yeah, it was a great experience just to kind of, you know, be more present, you know, because I've been working all hours for so long. And, you know, you just, as a father, as a husband, you know, you do lose that presence that you know, everyone wants. So for me, that was kind of just a great opportunity to, you know, really be like connected to the children, really kind of just spend as much time with them like as I could. And also make sure I created some space for myself to really think about my next move and whatever I was going to do, you know, that I wanted to be on that journey for many years to come. And that was going to give me, you know, the satisfaction that I was looking for in whatever business I was going to pursue.
Okay. Well, I ask it just because, I mean, I think anyone that runs their own business or started something like this, I mean, and if you're married or have a partner or so forth, I mean, like, whether they're directly involved in the business or not, I mean, they're essentially your partner. At least for me, I mean, I probably would have thrown in the towel a couple times now at this point if it wasn't for conversations with my wife and just like the reset that at least I needed, so forth. So I just asked just because in the big transitions that at least for me personally, we'd sit down and kind of align around like, okay, are we doing this? Because it is, to your point, like you have to be pretty in, and there's sacrifices to that, and that involves, especially as when you have kids and so forth, that it does involve the kids as well. I mean, on both sides, frankly. I mean, that's the other nice part about it. It's like, yeah, if I have to go pick one of them up at school, like for the most part, I can do that reasonably easy or whatever it is. So that's where that question was coming from. I was just wondering if your wife was like, "Oh no, we're not going down this again," or if she's like, "Yeah, let's go for it." Different industry, different
Yeah,
project.
no. So I guess when we, you know, my wife knows what I'm like, and you know, I am nonstop. I'm very passionate about, you know, kind of what I do, and when I do something, I'll put my all into it. Right? There's no half kind of in, half out.
Yeah.
So you know, I said to her, like, you know, we're we're gonna have a lot of holidays. We're gonna enjoy this year off, year and a half off, because it's not gonna happen for a while. And I hadn't had a holiday for almost 3 years now.
Okay.
Obviously we kind of went to LA, spent time in LA, and that, I suppose, was kind of partly felt like a holiday on so many levels, and arguably kind of was partly a long holiday. But when I moved out to LA, I also started 5.5 as well. So it wasn't like just like plain sailing.
Yeah.
I had every weekend, I essentially, yeah, felt like a holiday. So she's incredibly supportive. She, you know, she really kind of like puts a lot of trust on me. She was the first person to kind of come into the app and experience it and give me the feedback and really kind of pushing me. And it's not been an easy road, right? Like 2.5 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
dollars later, you know, to get to where we are now, which is recently kind of a launch in the US market of 5.5. And, I think for her, like, she's just been really kind of pushing me, and giving me the encouragement, and she has been a rock for me. And, without a doubt, you know, um, she definitely has like a major influence in how I operate, how I think, and, motivational levels and all these things.
Yeah.
One thing myself, I'm pretty self-motivated, but as sometimes you just had a really, really rubbish day and you're like, oh, those three things all happen at once. That really hurts.
Yeah.
And she's like, don't worry, you've got this. It's going to change the world. Like, you've got it, and that's just nice to kind of snap out of that, kind of negative
Yeah.
mode and frustrated mode, just get back onto you kind of riding it again. And
Totally.
and that's really helpful especially when you're working from home, right? So we're a remote first company at the minute. So having kind of her to kind of even speak to, and that she clearly understands what we're doing, and we're building this for people like her as well. So it's
Mm,
to have her continual encouragement, and it makes a huge difference.
so important. I'm doing this for you, just by the way, so that when things get a bit tense and you're going all out, you can clip this part and send it
Absolutely.
to your wife.
I was it'll be
Right?
amazing. And I'll get
Exactly.
well, just put it under her pillow so she can read it as well.
Exactly. See, we got to stick together. See, that's a small gift from behind the human. Um, okay, so let's talk about. I mean, I think we've painted the picture of the importance of breath work, or at least tease people with that. I mean, I shared this when you and I first met. I think I share the sentiment with you. It's the practice, and it's not to say that this is for everyone, but I don't know if I had to put some stats towards it. It definitely leans to a pretty nice looking number around the impact that really anyone that does any kind of breathing, talks about. So what I guess what is 5.5, and how is it different? And like why take on, because you mentioned like you're kind of millions of dollars into making this a reality. And myself having been in the app world, like this is not an easy market to jump. It's no longer the like, oh yeah, you're in the garage and just, well, I guess maybe you are now that where we are with AI and so forth. But my point is, there are a lot of apps, there are a lot of options out there. It's not easy, right? So, like for you, what was it that like, okay, we have to do this and do it differently?
I think there is well over 100,000 apps out there. Um, Truth is, the vast, vast, vast majority of them are very bad.
Yeah, that's a good
And
point.
I think that we kind of set out to make the best breathwork app in the world. We have certainly done that. And now the next stage is, to make this the best wellness app in the world. And,
Mm,
I think that for us, if we can see that, how often our users are doing this, right? Proactively every day, sometimes twice a day. And we can also see the impact that it's having from a biometric level when they connect their wearable, their device. So I think that there is, for me, like this kind of two separate worlds. You've got wellness content, like Calms, Headspace of the world, maybe even Peloton fitness style. And they do things well in their own way. And the other side,
yeah.
got wearable devices and metrics and data, like Whoop or a Fitbit, Garmin. And they do things very well. But never before has those two worlds come together to make sure that you can be served highly impactful content based off that data. And that for me
Yeah.
was the changing point. How can we ensure that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, we are giving you the optimal class for you based off your metrics and your goals that you've set out? And that for me was something that I was incredibly passionate about, because, right now, like, there's a load of different exercises, but you will react differently to one exercise than I would react differently. Time of
Yeah.
as well makes a kind of huge difference. Posture makes a difference. Environment makes a difference. Then you've got your biology. Everyone's biology is different, and that's going to change the results. So how can we ensure that we go hyper personalized and make sure that whatever you're doing is the best thing that you personally should be doing, not a generic, these are the best 10 exercises you should do, but this is the best class for you. This is the best length of time. This is the best time of day to get the most impact, based off you and your schedule and your biology. So for me,
Yeah.
that was kind of the goal, which was, bringing those two worlds together, and then doing that in a very simplistic, measurable, engaging, and entertaining way. So on one side, you've got that content piece, and we've done deals with all the major record labels and major publishers to allow people to not just breathe to traditional wellness music, but actually to music that people love listening to as well, from
Yeah. Yeah.
artists in the world. On the other side, you've got this kind of measurable aspect where we are just about to release a game-changing feature, which is allowing you to track your heart rate live in class. And then off the back of that, you will get AI-driven coach feedback to say, this is what went well, this is what you could do better next time. You've struggled with that exercise, found that exercise. If you relax into that exercise more, next time you might get a different result. This is how it compared to your last session. This is how it compares to other users, and you can understand kind of where you're at in terms of beginner versus advanced. So this is kind of game-changing features that allow people to get true feedback so they can optimize their performance. And then separate to that, you've also got, these scores from a mind score, body score, and a sleep score, because wearables can be great. You've been notified that your HRV has gone down by 10%. You don't know why, and you don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
We say, this is kind of what's caused it. It's your mind, or it's your body, or it's your sleep. Do these 5 sessions for the next 5 days to get that score back up. So we can have direct content against those metrics. So yeah, it's so those are two worlds of measurability, trackability, and content coming together in a very simplistic way, so anyone can get into any session within 2 clicks and they're in. And that for me is kind of what the whole industry is lacking, but it's absolutely the future of wellness and the whole industry as a whole, because I don't think wellness should ever just be a feeling. We have the technology
Sure.
to measure it. I also believe that wellness should be hyper personalized based off you, an individual. You shouldn't have the need to kind of get generic wellness routines anymore, when we have, again, the technology to ensure that you're doing what's right for you. So
Yeah.
putting all that together is something that, just hasn't existed before. And obviously kind of why we've kind of invested so much time, energy into building what we're building.
I agree with you. I mean, I think it's almost like we don't have to accept the normal, which is what is normalized right now, of, just to your point, like, just generalize, like, hey, just go do these breathwork sequences or do these meditations. Like, it just seems like we're kind of robbing ourselves of the fact that we do have really good technology and data and tools and so forth. Like, why wouldn't you leverage that, right? And I think the other big thing that, so I love, kind of how everything's coming together and what you guys are doing in that sense. But from a practicality standpoint, just what I see working with a lot of teams on the mental fitness front, people are really looking for entry tools into this stuff. And I think, like, that's where, historically you have, because, like we talked about, it's not like breathwork is new, but it's been positioned in a way that I think a lot of people just don't resonate with, or it's long, or you're going on a 7-day silent retreat or something like that, right? Which, these are all fantastic things, but I I guess the example that comes to mind, if or parallel to physical fitness, it's like, yeah, of course you can go out and, run a marathon and go do those things, but if you're not doing anything, like, you're not going to start there. So what I like is, like, it's the first time I've heard, you mentioned this at the top of the conversation, but functional breath work. And I think, like, that's actually the way, because just being real with how people are struggling, and, we're trying to, like, their attention's being pulled all over. If they can go in and do a few minutes that's highly personalized to them, they see the progress, right? They've got a roadmap of some sort. You start to feel that progress, which, as humans, we're wired, that's something that we enjoy or we strive for. Then all of a sudden, you actually end up going on those other experiences, because now you're in, like, you're seeing the benefits. And I think that's what we need. Like, we need the transition, right? We need that ability to integrate these tools into our current lives and routines, until we can get to the point where we really start changing, and optimizing our routines, which I think has to happen. But you can't start there, or you're not going to stay consistent.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and we're also just wired as humans to want instant gratification, right? So
Yeah.
kind of if you can see something that's happening in front of your eyes, you can see your heart rate's going from here to here, and you've kind of going through kind of your focus zone through to your rested zone through to your sleep zone. Like you can see it happening in real time, right? And
Yeah.
also, incredibly powerful to ensure that people can see the impact it's having so that they do stick with it, right? And that's the thing about functional breath work. You can come in and kind of enter into it, but if you stop doing it, it will drop off. Just like going to the gym. If you keep going to the gym every day and then all of a sudden you stop going to the gym, like you're going to lose those gains, right? And it's the same thing with
Yeah.
functional breath work as well.
Yeah.
But I do
Ama-
agree with you. Like the entry to that world is really important. So how can you kind of make that, as integrable into people's days as possible as well? And you've probably kind of seen within the app as well, we've got like the collections. So, me, for example, when I do my breath work, I go to the gym 5 mornings a week. I go on the treadmill, I plug in 5.5 and I'm doing my 5 minutes of breath work on the move. In those 5 minutes, I'm increasing my carbon dioxide tolerance, which puts me at the optimal state
yeah.
to train. I'm increasing my lung capacity, which is directly linked to longevity. I'm activating my diaphragm. I'm reducing my cognitive load from a science perspective. All of that happening in 5 minutes. I'm not eating any more time of my day. I'm there
Yeah.
doing it. I'm going to go on that treadmill regardless. So we've really tried to make sure that we've built in these types of sessions to fit into people's busy life. Because I was there, right? I didn't have time to do
Yeah. Yeah.
minutes of breath work even. So we've got like you can do it on your commute. We can do it on the subway without looking weird. These exercises, you don't look weird doing them. People don't even know.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Not hyperventilating on the subway.
Oh yeah. Someone definitely call an ambulance. So you've got this kind of opportunity to bring that into everyday life. We have people that do it at their desk, so we brought in work breathers for people that want to do it at their desk. People that want to just are walking from meeting to meeting, or walking home from a station, whatever it may be. We've designed those to fit into people's busy lives because we understand that it's very hard to find more time in a day. If you do have a
Yeah.
wellness routine and you've carved out time in your day, then great. I mean, that's the perfect place to be. But the vast majority of people, we can't expect them to do that and just change their lives, to
Yeah.
create this time out of nowhere, which, most people struggle with.
No, I agree. I mean, and this is where like I love this. It's like you're basically practice stacking and stacking onto other habits and other routines, and so which is also just from a science perspective one of the most successful ways to introduce other habits,
Yeah.
right? Or other practices and rituals is tack it onto something that you're already doing. So I think it's fantastic. I agree. Like, I wish it wasn't the case that you know, we're living this kind of crazy world in modern society. But I mean, also, like, let's just not ignore that, like, that's the reality of the situation. So if we can give these tools and slowly start shifting perspective and showing what's possible,
Mm.
then that's where I see it as well. Like, where then people do start making more time,
Yeah.
right? Because you feel it, right? And then you see the benefits, not just, with your health, you see it with how you think and your professional life and all of that, and everything just gets better. And I just like that's my excitement and hope for, I think, society moving forward, just knowing all of the terrible data that's out there from a mental health perspective, that if we can all do our part in a way, work together and collaborate. And this is why I love that you guys are, integrating wearables and other technology and so forth, so that it's not like you're just doing your one thing and forget everyone else. Like, it's all fueling it, right? Like, that's where we'll have the ability to have exponential change. And from that mindset too, like, that's where people come up with new ideas and the best ideas, when you're in a clear space, right? Not in this stressed kind of survival state of mind.
Yeah,
So
100.
yeah, man, I just want to thank you. I mean, it's crazy how fast time flew. Well, we can definitely do a part two as things continue to develop, because I know you've got so much in the product roadmap and different features. But I want to thank you and the team for the work that you're doing, and also that, for whatever reason, your character and the way you're brought up and the way that you think, like you're not just sitting on some yacht somewhere in the Caribbean Sea doing nothing, and actually, taking all the, the lessons and insights you've learned in your other work and so forth, and really putting it to good use where we all benefit. So
Thank you.
appreciate you, Adam. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me. And yeah, obviously loving all the work that you're doing as well. And the impact that you're making as well. So yeah, kudos to you as well.
Thank you. All right. Everything will be in the show notes. I'll make sure that the direct download links are there. 5.5. You won't be disappointed. I've been using it for a while now, and it's truly unique. So enjoy.
Thank you so much.